Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is HIKMIL KUMALA, student of Economic Education in UNP. In this video, I will review a journal about regional economy. So, please enjoy this video. Connecting Gender and Economic Competitive Lessons from Cambridge High-Tech Regional Economy by Mia Gray and Al James. Abstract. Although recognition of the significance of gender division continues to transform economic geography, the discipline nevertheless remains highly uneven in its degree of engagement with gender as a legitimate focus on analysis. In particular, although social institutions are now widely regarded as key determinants of economic success, the regional learning and innovation literature remains largely gender-blind, simultaneously subordinating the female worker voice and making invisible distinctively gendered patterns of work in the face of an increasingly feminist labor force. Introduction. Over the last 2 decades, economic geography has been transformed by the recognition of gender as a key focus of analysis. As female labor participation rates have steadily increased, so geographers have examined the ways in which gender divisions and gender social relations are partly constituted by the affect economic process. Moreover, they have engaged explicitly with feminist scholarship to examine the role of gender in shaping work, employment, local labor markets, structure of the firm, and employee practice. As such, analysis of gender structure have helped to transform and broaden the very notion of the economic. On the social determinants of economic competitive, firms that innovate more consistently and rapidly typically demand higher skills, pay higher wage, and offer more stable prospects for their workforce. Consequently, the formal and informal institutional underpinnings of economically competitive firms and regions have attracted considerable policy and academic attention, especially within geography. Introducing Silicon Fan argued that recognition of gender division forces a more nuanced and qualified interpretation of the degree of social, cultural cohesion identified in the above study. Indeed, to broaden our analysis in this way also forces a recognition of significant gender constraint on female workers' ability to contribute to process of informal networking, social interaction, and other work patterns widely theorized to underpin firms' abilities to compete, and which stem from gender inequalities between workers. We focus especially on the ICT sector, which is particularly well represented in the Cambridge region. Although estimates of the size of this sector vary extensively, we conservatively estimate that it is currently comprised of almost 1,000 companies that employ over 17,000 workers. Methodology. To move towards clearer understanding of the ways in which gender inequalities faced by female workers in Cambridge ICT workforce shape their abilities, or relative to their male colleagues, to contribute to key process widely theories to underpin firms' economic competitive, we employ a multi-method research strategy. Unpacking gender and economic competitive in Silicon Valley. First, informal after-work socializing and tacit knowledge transfer. As such, worker abilities to access new sources of information and knowledge in close proximity to their respective firms' existing knowledge base underpin, in turn, firms' ability to compete enhanced by the ever-increasing intersectoral nature of new technologies. Crucially, social networks between employees have been widely identified as conduits of information exchange between firms, reinforcing more formal types in interaction. Second, job hopping and knowledge diffusion through employees as embodied competencies. The second key area in which gender inequalities faced by female workers constrain their ability in turn to contribute fully to firms' economic competitive center on their ability to transfer information and tacit knowledge between firms through interfirm labor mobility. Tacit knowledge refers to the knowledge or insight that individuals acquire which is ill-defined or unquantified and which they themselves can fully articulate. In contrast, explicit or codified knowledge is knowledge that transmittable in informal, systematic language. As communication technologies have improved the transfer of codified or formal knowledge between firms, so firms' economic competitive is argued to be increasingly dependent upon their ability to access sources of new tacit knowledge, which is highly personal, context-specific, and difficult to formalize. We know more than we can tell. Third, firms' use of knowledge and absorptive capacity. The third key area in which gender inequalities impact upon female workers' abilities to underpin firms' economic competitive center on process of knowledge use within local firms. For high-tech firms, competitive is sustained by the firm becoming a moving target through continuous technological learning and the rapid development and commercialization of new ideas. Crucially, however, this is dependent not only on firms' employees' abilities to access external sources of information as outlined above, but also on their abilities to assimilate, reconfigure, transform, and apply new information to commercial ends, or in the other words, on their absorptive capacity. Hard at work, women in high-tech firms. In this paper, we have talked to unpack the gendered, social, and relational properties of ICT firms in Cambridge high-tech regional economy, not only to make visible significant gender inequalities in patterns of work and social interaction among workers in Cambridge high-tech economy, but also to specify the ways in which those inequalities, in turn, constrain female workers' abilities to contribute to key processes widely theorized to underpin economic competitiveness of firms in the region. Wider policy implication. The radical economic restructuring of many industrialized countries has led to the growth of a regional development industry that is fixated with the Porterian notion of clusters as an important development tool. It is striking that cluster policies focus almost exclusively on the tangible hard institutions that underpin high-tech regional economic development, such as the provision of venture capital, additional spending for education, incubator space, prestigious addresses in local university-based science parks, and technical assistance. Conclusion. In this paper, we have critique the dominant tendency within the regional learning and innovation literature to divorce learning and innovation process from people with very real gender identities and commitment which motivate and shape their daily work activities. Drawing on the case study of the ICT sector in Cambridge, one of the Europe blueprint high-tech regional economics, we have outlined significant inequalities in the dominant patterns of work and social interaction among female versus male employees. So, that's all my review about the journal. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.